Moving on to the next etiquette, number 14, is contemplation. Contemplation, thinking, okay, deeply about matters before you get involved in matters. So you'll find two kinds of people. One kind of people, they like to jump in every situation. They've not thought through the situation. They want to go and do things very quickly without much thinking or planning. And the other kinds of people, they will contemplate, they will ponder, they will analyze, they will plan, they will think through a situation before they get involved. Of course, too much of either can lead to problems. If you are somebody who jumps in everything without thinking through, of course, you're going to land in a lot of problems. Okay? But also, if you take too much, nothing, that also is a problem, right? So you have to be decisive. The middle path is to think through things properly, to contemplate, to ponder, and then to come up with a decision, and then to follow through with that decision. Be contemplative, for whosoever does so will reach their goal. And it was said, contemplate and you will reach. Meaning, if you want to reach your goals in life, you have to think about those goals. You have to plan for those goals. You have to come up with a methodology. You have to come up with some kind of a process that you will follow for your life. If you do not have a process, then there is a problem. Just like they say, those who fail to plan, plan to fail. You always have to plan. If you don't plan things, then you are bound to failure. If you look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you'll find it full of planning. When the Prophet made hijrah, how many things the Prophet went through? The Prophet waited for 3 months before he actually made hijrah. He made his niyyah in Muharram, and he actually made his hijrah in Rabiul Awwal. So almost 2 to 3 months he waited. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, who was ready for the hijrah with the Prophet, he made ready the camels for the journey. So he fed them, he made them fat, he made them strong so that when the time comes, they are ready. The Prophet hired a guide, Abdullah ibn Urayqit, who was a non-Muslim, to take them through the path which was unknown. Because he wanted to hide from the Quraysh, so he took a path for hijrah which was unknown. And he hired a guide for that. That's part of his planning. Instead of going north, he went south. He stayed in Ghar Thawr for 3 days. Okay? When everyone was sleeping, when everyone is taking the midday nap, that's when the Prophet chose to leave the town. So the Prophet planned. Same thing for the battles that the Prophet fought. You'll find extensive planning. Dividing the battalions, giving the flags to certain Sahaba, about their strength, early, securing the water, all those things the Prophet used to do. That, like many people think in Islam, you can just kind of rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dhikr and dua, and that's it. No, you have to go through extensive contemplation to succeed. Therefore, think ahead when you speak. What am I going to say? What will be the results of what I am going to say? Also be careful of how you phrase what you're saying and convey what you want to say without going to any extremes or fanciness. So when words come out of your mouth, they should be calculated. They should be weighed. If you are a serious student of knowledge, you're not just going to let your emotions or desires or your tongue take over. Whatever comes to your mind, you blurt it out. No. As Muslims, we think through what we're saying. Am I saying something good? Do I need to say it? Maybe I don't even need to say it. It's better to remain quiet. That's why the Prophet said either say something good or remain quiet. So those are the two modes we operate. But in order to say something good, you need to analyze. Is it good? Is it going to bring any benefit? Is it going to bring harm? Am I wording it properly? It will be taken in the wrong way by the people. Okay? In my particular case, as a imam and as a khatib and as a teacher, many times I have learned the wrong way, in a hard way. I meant something, but my words were taken in a different context. And then I'm later on like, maybe I should have used different words. Maybe I should have said it like this. Maybe I should have said, the whole week when I'm preparing for Jummah khutbah, I'm thinking. Even though I have the topic in mind, but I'm thinking, should I say it like this? Should I say it like this hadith? Is it better? Is this Quranic verse more conducive? Because it's a big responsibility. And even after that extensive planning and calculation, you'll make mistakes. And you move on. Allah said, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. speak nice to people, speak good to people, okay? Something beautiful to people, not something ugly, not something that is going to cause commotion, chaos, not something that will bring fear to people. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, give good news, glad tidings to people. Okay? Make Islam easy upon people. Don't make Islam hard upon people. And so on. So as a Muslim and as a student of knowledge, one needs to calculate what they say. Carefully consider what words to use when you're thinking about how you're going to say whatever you intend to say. Also think carefully when you are asked a question. Do you understand the question in its correct context in a way so as not to carry double meanings? So that's part of the student of knowledge, and eventually if one becomes a scholar, if one becomes, a da'i, then a lot of questions will come your way. People will ask you questions. You need to understand what that question really is. Before you jump to give the answer, first listen. Listening is part of the process. If you're not a good listener, you're not going to be a good student of knowledge. You're not going to be a good da'i, you're not going to be a good counselor, imam, whatever. Okay? You're not going to be a good parent. Your kids are going to bring up questions from time to time. You need to listen to those questions. You need to contemplate on those questions. Because sometimes the question might have been asked in one context and you might have understood it in a different context. That's why clarification is needed. That's why contemplation is needed. So etiquette number 14 is what? Contemplation. Thinking before you speak. Weighing your words. Okay? Umar ibn Khattab used to say, weigh your deeds and your words before they will be weighed. So we have to look into our deeds and words. Number 15, firmness and confirmation. Adorn yourself with firmness and confirmation, and especially in calamities and serious situations, and from them is patience and firmness upon acquiring and passing long hours in seeking knowledge from the scholars, for whosoever is firm will grow. Another way of saying this is consistency. What did the Prophet say? What are the most beloved deeds to Allah? The deeds that are done consistently. Okay? So what happens with many of us is we listen to a khutbah, or we read the Quran, or we have a friend or somebody and they inspire us. We become more religious, right? And we want to pray 100 rakah every night. I've met those people, who get really charged up. I'm going to pray 100 rakah every night, right? And they will, start giving up by the 50th rakah. And then the next day, okay, let's bring it down to 20 rakah. And then the following day, even 2 rakahs are hard. So that is not Islam. That is not the etiquettes of a proper da'i or a proper abid of Allah or a proper, seeker of knowledge. If you want to be a good seeker of knowledge, then you have to be consistent. Okay? So for example, these halaqas we have. How many people consistently come to the halaqah? You'll find people on and off. Somebody will come once a year, somebody will come 6 months. Then amongst them, there are people who are consistently coming. And it is those people who will actually benefit from the halaqah, because there is a continuity from the previous halaqah to the next halaqah. Same thing for Arabic classes. I teach a lot of Arabic classes. A lot of students join and then they start giving up, dropping. And then like, next time I'm going to join another Arabic class. And then next time I'm going to do this. And some people will tell me, oh, I joined the Huda courses. Like, mashallah. And then 6 months later, I meet the same brother. Oh, I joined this Arabic course in this new masjid. Al-Maghrib course from this. They keep changing courses all their life. They never learn Arabic because there's no consistency. In order to do anything, you have to go till the end. You cannot give up midway. If you are somebody who keeps giving up midway, that's your attitude will always be, I'm going to do it later, and that later will never ever come. So it's important that whatever you do as good deeds, you are consistent with them. Just pray 2 rakah every night. Don't have to pray like hundreds of rakah. Just 2 rakah. Get used to it. Okay? If you are somebody struggling with the salah, then do the faraid first, the fard part of each prayer. If it's so very hard for you to do the sunnah and the nawafil and all of it, just do the fard. Get used to the fard every day. Do it for 6 months, do it for a year. Now you're good with the fard, now move on to the sunnah. Maybe next year add the 2 sunnah before fajr, or the 2 sunnah after maghrib, or the witr prayer, which will be the next most important prayer after the fard. So this is how you grow. You don't grow by sporadically jumping to doing a lot of good deeds and then giving up. That's what happens with many people in Ramadan, right? In Ramadan, we all get supercharged. We want to finish a lot of Qur'ans. We want to do a lot of adhkar, du'as. We're all coming to the masjid. As soon as Ramadan is over, you find what? The masjid attendance goes down. You hardly find any people for salah, the ones who are coming in Ramadan. You don't find those people until next Ramadan. So that is not consistency. We need to be firm in doing good deeds. So if you're a seeker of knowledge, one of the etiquettes would be to spend long hours with a sheikh, with a teacher. So pick a teacher in your life, a scholar that you like, the scholar that you trust, and then you need to be with that scholar. Whether it is, listening to his audios or videos, or if you are able to access this scholar personally in a masjid or somebody, you go there, you learn from him, you spend time with him. It takes years and years and years of consistency to get somewhere. So that's part of the etiquettes of knowledge, is to be firm and be consistent. Any questions? Are we good? The next section is the methodology of seeking knowledge. So this first section was the general etiquettes that one needs to have in order to seek knowledge. The next one is now the methodology. How should you seek knowledge? What is the right way of seeking knowledge? First one, the methodology of seeking knowledge and its levels. Whoever does not perfect the foundation is prevented from reaching their aim in knowledge. If you have not gone through kindergarten and first grade, you cannot go to PhD, right? You have to have a firm foundation in education, in knowledge. If you are somebody who's missing the basics, you cannot reach the advanced levels. So that's why basics are so important. That's the foundation. That's why when somebody comes to Islam, a convert, somebody joins Islam, what is the thing we work on the most? Aqidah, Tawheed, Iman. Like these are the basics. Same thing for our kids. For our children, we teach them this is the most important thing. Your relationship with Allah, your belief in the prophets, your belief in Qadr, your belief in the books of Allah, and so on, the Day of Judgment. That's the basics. If your basics are weak, then you cannot have a foundation of Islam on top of that. Remember, the pillars are going to come later. What comes first? The foundation. Without foundation, what are you going to do with the pillars? You are coming to Salah, but your foundation of Iman is not there. Your love for Allah is not there. That Salah is not going to help you. You're praying and you're fasting. You're fasting in month of Ramadan. You're going for Hajj, but you don't even believe in the Qadr of Allah properly. You believe it's all happening randomly, or it's because of me. I control everything in my destiny. And now you're going for Hajj with that Aqidah. So what is that Hajj going to do for you? So basics are important. That's why the foundation is the key. Whoever wants to attain knowledge in one go will lose it in one go. These are all statements of great scholars in the past, ulama. So one of the statements is, whoever wants to gain knowledge in one go is also going to lose it in one go. Meaning, if you're not consistently, slowly building knowledge, you want to grab everything in the first day, in the first month, in the first year, then you're also going to lose it very quickly. The quicker it comes, the quicker it goes. You need to have a long-term consistent plan in your life to seeking knowledge. It was also said, overcrowding the knowledge in the ear misguides one's understanding. Too much information. Some people, they get overloaded with Islamic information. So they go to this scholar, this YouTube video, that khutbah, this khatib, that imam. They're trying to go everywhere and grab all this information. And what that can do is, that can cause misguidance. Because it's overcrowding of the ear, meaning there's too much information. You don't have time to process that information. You don't have time to think about that information, contemplate that information. You're just putting more and more information. So what is your goal when you seek knowledge? Is the goal to memorize a lot of knowledge and impress people? Because that could be a goal, right? Some people memorize hadiths, quotes of scholars. At the tip of their tongue, they'll be able to say the ayat of the Quran. For them, that might be the goal. But that is not going to be benefit. There's not going to be any sincerity in this, and it's not going to cause any taqwa. Remember, the ultimate goal of seeking knowledge is to increase in taqwa for Allah, God consciousness. And if God consciousness is not increasing and your knowledge is increasing, it's just a burden. It's just like Allah mentioned about Bani Israel. They're like donkeys and you keep putting books on them. Okay? What will happen to the donkey? Is that going to enlighten the donkey's soul? if you keep putting books on its back? No, it's just going to be a burden on the donkey. So let us not be like the donkey who's burdened with so much facts and information and it is having no impact on us. Rather, go slow, learn knowledge properly, basics first, then you go to advanced issues and you build properly on that. Therefore, it is essential to ground yourself in every subject you wish to study by perfecting its basics and perfecting a concise book on every subject with a scholar and not relying upon personal efforts alone. Seeking knowledge should also be taken step by step. So two important points here. If you are serious about knowledge, you need to take it from the shuyukh. Because some people, they do self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is like, I'm going to read that book, I'm going to listen to that YouTube video, okay? Which is not going to organize that knowledge in any way in your head, okay? This is one of the benefits I found when I was able to actually sit with scholars, and teachers. I used to do a lot of self-knowledge before. For many years, I'm listening to this, going to that lecture, that conference here, just going around taking my own notes. When I started my degree in Islamic studies and I went to the proper shuyukh, I found that they were able to now organize my knowledge in the proper way. Okay, this goes here, this goes there. The step number 3 is step after step number 2. Okay? It was all unorganized, disorganized in my head. They put it all together in a way that would make more sense and make it easy. So the best way of seeking Islamic knowledge is not just doing self-study. Self-study is good, it will get you some kind of knowledge. But the best way is to enroll with a scholar, a university, a program that will structure your knowledge and then stay with that university, stay with that scholar until a long time for that to work. Okay? Do you understand this? Self-knowledge versus structured knowledge. Number 2, the second point is step-by-step approach. Step-by-step approach. Okay. I had shared this earlier when I used to go to the prison to teach Jummahs, to do Jummah services in West Virginia. One time I go in the prison and their brothers are waiting. They organize the Jummah place and everything. They're waiting for me to come in and lead. And they're distributing this sheet. So I go in and I grab one of the sheet and it says on the sheet, these are the scholars, Islamic scholars you should not take knowledge from. You should not take knowledge from these scholars. And I'm like interested, okay, what's going on here? Who are these scholars? And there's a list of like 50, 60 scholars on there, and they did not leave any major scholar. There is Imam Bukhari is on it, Imam Shafi'i is on it, Abu Hanifa is on it. Think of any major Islamic scholar, their name will be on it. And I'm like, brothers, what's going on? And when I asked them and did some investigation, I found they had no idea who these scholars were. Because these are converts, new Muslims to Islam. They had just gone to a website somewhere that they were following and they printed it off, this list, do not take from these Islamic scholars. And they started distributing. So this is what happens when you go to advanced things before you even know the basics. These brothers don't even know the basics of Islam. They don't know Tawheed properly. They don't know how to pray properly. Okay? They're still struggling with the very basics and they are now going into advanced fiqh issues and it's like, oh, this scholar is bad. We should not take from him. That scholar is bad. We should not take from him. And now they're going to these random websites which you don't know, you cannot even rely. You don't even know who's behind these websites. And they're printing stuff and doing. So you have to be careful. A lot of times people, they are interested in fiqh issues. Like if today's halaqah is on fiqh, you will find how many people will show up. Whenever I have had fiqh halaqas, a lot of people show up because everyone's interested. Zakah, do I need to give zakah on retirement? Do I need, people have all these fiqh questions they are so interested in. But the problem is the basics are missing. You can have those fiqh questions and you can sort them out, but if your basics are not there, your taqwa is not there, iman is still needed, your relationship with the Prophet, the seerah. A lot of people have never read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they are going into these fiqh issues. No. You start with the basics, step-by-step approach. As I said, if I gave a first grader a PhD level course, the first grader is not going to get it, right? So that's our problem. We are first graders. Most of us, we are in the kindergarten, first grade level of Islamic knowledge. And we are interested in all these blogs online, debating with other people, right? I've seen those, internet blogs where people are going after each other and each other's scholars and cursing each other and, fighting basically, literally fighting over some fiqh issue. Should we have 20 rakas or 8 rakas? Tarawih. That is an issue that comes up in a lot of places. Should we start Ramadan with calculation method or citing the moon? You'll find a lot of masajid, they are divided and they start, Should we have khutbah, Arabic khutbah, the Jummah khutbah in Arabic, or is it allowed to have it in another language? People will divide over these issues. And then they will decide which masjid they want to go and which masjid they don't want to go, and all that division starts happening. This is a problem when you don't know the basics and you get involved in all these scholarly debates and issues. These are scholarly debates. You and I are not going to resolve these scholarly debates by, right? These are well-known issues which the scholars have been debating for centuries. You'll find this opinion, you'll find that opinion, so on. Okay? Hijab, can the woman, cover her face, or should she cover her face, or is it allowed for her, not to cover her face? You'll find, scholarly opinions on both sides. The isbal, your pants, they need to be above your ankle, or can they go below the ankle? Again, you will find scholarly debates on these issues. So the problem is we are so interested in these debates instead of really focusing on areas which are important for us to build upon, which is our aqeedah, which is our iman. Therefore, it is essential to ground yourself in every subject you wish to study by perfecting its basics and taking step-by-step approach. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ba'da qul a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa Qur'anan faraqnahu litaqra'ahu 'ala an-nas 'ala mukthin wa nazzalnahu tanzila. And it is a Qur'an which we have divided into parts in order that you may recite it to men at intervals, and we have revealed it by stages. Have you ever noticed the Quran, its structure is very different to any other book that we read? The Quran has these kind of short themes. The ayat will talk about one theme, then after 8-10 ayat a new theme begins, after 8-10 ayat another theme begins. Why did Allah do it like that? Because the Quran is not meant to be read like a book, like other books we read. Quran is meant to be recited with those short themes. This theme in first rakah, this theme in second rakah, and we reflect upon those themes. That's the whole idea of the Quran. That's why a lot of non-Muslims, when they read the Quran for the first time, especially in English, it becomes very hard to understand things. They're like, what's going on? Suddenly, Allah jumps from third person to first person. They were doing it, now Allah says, I am telling you. From they to I, from I to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then back to I. The story of Adam alayhi salam is going on. Suddenly in the middle of the story, Musa alayhi salam's story starts. We're like, what's going on? What happened to Adam alayhi salam? Because it's not meant to be like a chronological book where you go from Adam alayhi salam to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's meant to be a thematic book, a theme. It's theme based. What is the theme? If Allah is talking about taqwa, Allah is going to gather these snippets, stories from different anbiya and teach us about taqwa. If Allah is talking about patience and tawakkul, then Allah is going to bring those stories from different parts of Islamic history, from the Anbiya, and is going to teach us. So it's not meant to be read like a book that you go from A to Z. It's meant to be portion, small portion. You take that portion, you reflect upon it. That is why Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, they used to say, we used to take 10 ayat at a time. And until we had memorized them, and until we had understood their meanings, and until we had practiced them, we would not go to the next 10. Okay? Today our approach to Quran is different. We just go for barakah. Oh, I finished 3 Qurans, brother, in Ramadan. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. That's good. You finished it 3 times, but what's the benefit you're getting from it? Are you gaining its guidance? Did you reflect upon its ayat? Did you cry in the middle? Did you make dua to Allah after a few verses? No. Where is your part? What's the interaction you're having with the Quran? So Allah said He revealed the Quran in these stages, in these small intervals, so that people could recite and reflect upon them. Also, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ عَلَيْهِ الْقُرْآنُ جُمْلَةً وَاحِدَةً كَذَلِكَ لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَرَتَّلْنَاهُ تَرْتِيلًا. And those who disbelieve, they say, why is the Quran not revealed to him all at once? Thus it is sent down in parts, that we may strengthen your heart thereby, and we have revealed it to you gradually. So how do you strengthen your heart? By reciting Quran gradually. Not in a lump sum, like the whole Quran, I want to finish it in this, in this period of time. No, you recite it slowly. You recite it with reflection. Take few ayat at a time. Absorb them, understand them, reflect upon them, and then go to the next set of ayat. Okay? That is why Uthman ibn Affan, he has a statement in which he said, the Quran is like a date. The more you chew on it, the more it releases its sweetness. What's the fun? I give you a date and you swallow it, that's fun? Or you keep it in your mouth and you enjoy it kind of melting in your mouth and the sweetness being released from the next 5-10 minutes? What's the more fun, right? That's how it's supposed to be. If you just take the date and swallow it in, it's no fun. There's nothing, you won't feel any sweetness of it. It's just going to go in your stomach. That's how we eat food, right? We want to enjoy its taste. So that's how the Quran should be. It's like that date. Let it stay there. Let it go in your heart and let it release its sweetness to you. Don't just swallow it all up and say, I read the Quran or I recited the Quran like this. Also Allah says, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. And those who embraced Islam from the Banu Israel or the companions to whom we gave the book, that is the Torah and the Quran, they recite it, that is obey its orders and teachings, as it should be recited. They are those who believe therein. So who are the true believers of the Quran? Those who recite the Quran by giving it its rights. Haqq. What is the haqq of tilawa? The haqq of tilawa is that you recite properly, that you recite slowly, that you recite with reflection, that you recite with pondering, that you recite with the intention of gaining guidance, that you recite with the intention of following the ayat. That is the haqq of the Quran upon all of us. The haqq is not just the words being recited, blurted out from our mouths. No, at 120 miles per hour speed. Okay? Like Taraweeh prayer. If you go around most of the masajid in the world, how is Taraweeh prayer? Like, I'm from Pakistan, so I know. You go to some of the masajid in Pakistan and Taraweeh, I challenge you if you could even make out one word that the Imam is reciting. You cannot even make out a word sometimes. That's how quickly they are reciting. That's what you hear. You're standing there, that's what you hear in the loudspeaker. You cannot make out even the words that they're reciting because it's just like, and there's a competition going on. Our masjid, we finished the Quran on the 25th night. You guys are still doing the last juz. That's the competition going on between masajid. Which masjid is going to finish the Quran first? That's the whole goal of the Quran recitation and Taraweeh in those masajid. So we have to be careful. That's not the goal of the Quran and its recitation in Ramadan. Any questions or comments? Okay, now there are some recommendations here. First of all, first recommendation, and this is now the classical way. Today things have changed a little bit. First recommendation is that whatever subject you study, you memorize a basic level concise book in that subject. So that's what they used to do in the previous generations. Whenever they studied Islam, let's say you're studying Aqidah, they would expect you to memorize a small booklet on the subject of Aqidah with very basics on Aqidah. If you're learning the fiqh of Salah, then you have to memorize a small book on the fiqh of Salah, the very basics of it. So today we don't do that. Today most people, they jump from one subject to another, and a lot of times the memorization is not there. It is not part of the today people don't take notes. Note taking is a disappearing art, because a lot of times people depend on what? On PowerPoint slides that are available, or they'll record a recorder. Okay, but when you take notes, that's very different. What is happening in your mind is very different than you just like putting a recorder there, or you depending on slides or whatever. Because when you take notes, your mind actually is involved in that process. You're absorbing knowledge in a very different way. And then I've also seen people who do take notes never go back and memorize their notes. They never go back and revise their notes. Okay, so that is, what's the use of taking notes if you're never going to see them again in your life? Just a feel-good factor. I feel very good, I'm taking notes, I'm a very good student. And now you're going to go and put it away in your closet somewhere, you're never going to see those notes again. Okay? So you have to memorize your knowledge. Part of becoming a knowledgeable person is whatever you learn, you try to write it, you try to record it, you try to memorize it, you try to repeat it so that you will remember it over time. This is one of my motivations of teaching. Now, all these classes that I'm teaching, part of my motivation is so that I could repeat the knowledge that I have learned so that I will remember it. Otherwise, if I don't teach it and I don't review it, then what will happen over time? I'm going to forget it. If you don't review knowledge, it's going to leave you. Okay? Reminds me of that scholar who was visiting in the desert and he got robbed. The scholar is going through the desert and the thieves come and they take everything. So they're taking his horse and his money and everything. He's cool. He's fine with that. As soon as they take his books, he had books with him. As soon as they take his books, he starts crying like, please, don't take my books. He's pleading with them, take everything, just leave my books with. And the thief, he said, what kind of a scholar are you? If we take your books away, you don't know anything? You are dependent on your books, meaning you have not transferred any of that knowledge up here. So that day, the scholar, he said, I learned a lesson from those thieves. You can learn from anybody, right? And what's the lesson? Is whatever knowledge that I'm gaining, I need to transfer it here. If I'm not transferring it here, then it's just sitting in a book somewhere. It's useless for me. Because every time I have to go and access it. That's one of the benefits of memorizing Quran. Why should we memorize Quran as much as we can? Is because once you transfer Quran here and here, then you have access to it all the time. You don't have to go especially make wudu, open the mushaf and then find the ayah and so on. No. It's always with you. You can reflect upon it. It comes to you. A lot of times you will find, people who memorize the Quran, a situation happen in their life and suddenly a verse will come to their mind. Because they've memorized it, it's there, now they can connect that verse with their situation. So there's a lot of benefit, but we're talking about memorization with understanding. Not just memorizing the words of the Quran. Because you don't know what they mean, then they're never going to be a source of connection with your life. But you memorize with understanding. What does this verse mean? What are the main words, the vocabulary? What was happening in the Prophet's life? You read some tafsir, you listen to some lecture or whatever. And then you memorize it, you'll find it's a very different experience. Every time you recite it in salah, you'll have a very different experience. But once again, I have seen hufad of the Quran, they memorize the whole Quran. If you ask them, Qul huwallahu ahad, what does it mean? They don't know. I know these people, myself. They memorize whole Quran, but they have no understanding even about Qul huwallahu ahad. What does it mean? So what's the use of this kind of memorization? If you have no understanding, it's not improving your heart, improving your mind. So always when you memorize with understanding, so that it will have an impact in your life. So that's one, memorizing a concise book on the subject, perfected by studying it under a proficient sheikh. Once again, that's self-study versus studying under a sheikh. A teacher is very important. You cannot be self-taught. People think I can learn the Quran myself, I can become a scholar myself. In any field, not just talking about Islam, any field. You want to be an engineer, you need teachers. Want to be a doctor, you need teachers. Even when you sweep the floor, you need a teacher who teach you. There is technique for everything. I remember when I was 17, I came to college and one of my first jobs was sweeping floors and washing dishes at the university. That was one of my first jobs. And I started it knowing nothing about it. So I'm just doing sweeping like this. And this guy comes like, let me show you. And then he showed me the circular technique. I'm like, wow, good, that makes my life easier. It's easier to sweep the floor and it does a better job. So you see, even for sweeping floor, you need somebody to teach you. Everything has a teacher. Every subject has a teacher. So always find good teachers. Always find teachers who will help you. Number 3, do not engage yourself with long books and compilations on many different subjects before perfecting the basics and becoming proficient in it. Once again, don't go to advanced subjects in Islam if the basics are not there. If you're still struggling with aqidah issues, if you're still struggling with salah, and don't go into the halal and haram of a particular case, a fatwa related to, this kind of medication. Is it halal or haram? Alcohol, if it is mixed in something, what percentage of it is okay? And you are confusing yourself. Those are not your areas. Unless, of course, you are going through a situation where you need a fatwa, then you go to a scholar. You don't just make up your own fatwas and so on. But the point is, go through the basics before you go to advanced things. Do not swap from one concise book to another without any necessity, for this is from impatience. This is now similar to the example I gave you. From one Arabic course to the next Arabic course, right? You keep swapping, okay? Because you're impatient. You cannot show patience with the teacher. You cannot show patience with the coursework. You have to go all the way. Once you start something, finish it. Capture the benefits and precepts of knowledge by writing them down. As I said, note taking is very important. Okay, mashallah, we have young sister here. She's taking notes. And she's telling all of you, the rest of you, where are your notes? What kind of students are you? I am the good student. That's what she's thinking, right? Good. Good work, taking notes. Number 6, mentally prepare yourself to seek knowledge and progress in it. Also be concerned with and zealous in attaining and reaching what is above you until you progress on to the long compilations with ease. Another advice that I have for myself and others, and this is something that I have learned over the years, if you want to be a good student in any subject, don't think like a student. Think like a teacher. It's a mindset difference. Think like a teacher. Imagine after this session, you have to go and teach this session. That's now you'll be really active in class and you'll be taking the best notes and you'll be thinking and asking questions. Okay? Whereas if you think like students, I'm just going to sit here, listen to the lecture, go home, you'll be lazy. Your mind becomes lazy. You'll become sleepy. You'll be like, yeah, whatever I get, maybe I get 10%, 15% of it. But if you think like a teacher, I have to teach this now after I'm done, then you will be the best student in class. So it's a mindset change that we need to make. Think like teachers, do not think like students. It was the opinion of Ibn al-Arabi al-Maliki that the seeker should not mix between two subjects when the person is studying, and that priority should be given to learning Arabic, mathematics, then going on to the Quran. But Ibn Khaldun, another scholar, he said that then the present day customs did not encourage this method, and that the first priority should be given to studying the Quran and memorizing it, because as long as the child remains in the lap, he's easily controlled, but once he passes the ages of adolescence, it becomes difficult to force him to do things. So he's basically talking about where should children begin their education. Should they begin with the worldly education first and then come to the Quran? Or should they study the Quran first and then go to the worldly education? Of course, you can do both in parallel too. But a lot of scholars, they were against these many subjects. They were like, this is not good for the child's brain to have all these different subjects taught to the child at a young age. You should focus on one thing and then move to a different subject. So, of course, a lot of scholars were believers that the Quran should be the first one taught, because children are young and at that age they will listen to parents. You can control certain things. But once they become older, they're in their teenage years and you tell them to do things, it might be hard. So this is something that we need to be aware. As for studying two subjects or more simultaneously, then this differs from one seeker to another depending upon their capacity and understanding and their enthusiasm. Some people are very good at multitasking. They can have 2, 3, 4, 5 different subjects and they'll do well. Some people, you give them that, they'll start messing up. They need to go from one subject, finish it, then go to the next subject, finish it, and so on. So that depends on the person as well. There were among the people of knowledge those who taught the Hanbali fiqh from certain books for the beginners. And once those students became little older, then they would go to other books which were medium level books in fiqh. And then once they became good at that or proficient in that, then they would go to advanced level books in fiqh, and then they would allow that to happen. They would not permit the seekers in the first level to sit in the lessons of the seekers in the second level, and so on, as to eliminate any confusion. The whole point, again, once again, going from step by step, going from one step to another, starting with the beginners, then going to medium, intermediate, and then going to advanced subjects. And know that the list of the concise books and the long compilations upon which seeking knowledge is based and acquiring from it, the mashayikh generally differed from one region to another, depending on the madhab that was followed, the scholars of the time, which books that they thought were more beneficial, and so on. As for seeking knowledge in our time, after the stage of the Quranic schools and the completion of the memorization of the Quran, then once again, there are beginner level books that one can read. So anyone can think of a beginner level Aqidah book if you want to start your Aqidah. Any books that come to mind that you have read that you would recommend? The Fundamentals of Tawheed is one that I would recommend. It's a beginner level book written by Bilal Phillips. Dr. Bilal Phillips has written this book. So if you're a basic level student who wants to understand Aqidah issues, very basic, then you start. This is a good book. It's in English and it's available. It's not that expensive either. So I would recommend that. What about Salah? If you want to learn Salah, any resources that you would recommend, basic level? So there's a very good resource online. It's called the newmuslimguide.com. It is actually designed for new Muslims who are entering Islam and they're learning their prayer. But I think it's an excellent resource for everyone who wants to go through the whole Salah and make sure they're praying properly according to the way of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Of course, there is madhab differences in some areas where the hands need to be, the takbirat, should they be said out loud or not. There's all those issues are there. But this book, keeps it pretty basic, an introductory course on Salah. And so I would recommend that as a book for that. What about Seerah? Any good Seerah books that you have read? There's many Seerah books. Huh? Seerul Nectar, Rahiqul Makhtoom is a good book. It's very basic level. Yes?
I have read The Moon Splits.
The Moon Splits, yeah, that's a good book. Any other? Tafsir al-Mayassara. Who is it by?
It's by Ibn Hashim, but it's like a shortened version.
So it's like summarized or, yeah. So that's the kind of thing we need to start with, something, because if you don't know the seerah of the Prophet, once again, why not? That's a very important thing. We all need to learn about the seerah of the Prophet, at least know the basics of his life, at least know his character, the basics of his character and so on. Because a lot of our issues today go back to the seerah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So in every subject, what do? You find a concise book or a resource that is very basic level. In our times, of course, internet is there, but you need to be careful with the internet because there's all kinds of things online. There are good things and then there is a lot of confusion too. So you need to consult with somebody who has gone through those resources and they think it is a good resource. Someone you can trust, a scholar, for example, recommends you good books and stuff. That is really good. So we start with the basics. Any questions here? So in this manner and time, one would be engaged in seeking knowledge within the gatherings of knowledge. For example, in the mornings from Fajr till noon, if one's schedule allows. Then after that, there would be time for a nap, and just before Dhuhr, and lessons would be held after the 5 daily prayers. So one of the ways of the early scholars was to have sessions after prayers, because everyone comes to Salah. So right after Salah, they'll have a session on Aqidah, a session on Seerah, session on Hadith, whatever. And that would be really, beneficial for the people because they're coming for Salah 5 times a day and they're attending some of these sessions. Our problem in the West is what? Schedule. Our schedules are not set according to Salah. In the Muslim world, in many countries, your schedule is according to Salah time, so you can kind of, work around it. But here we have to find other ways of seeking knowledge. And one of the ways could be attending halaqas at the masjid, for example, like you're doing right now. Another way would be online, finding good scholars online and following them, and following their videos, their audios, listening to them regularly. Books, you can read books at home, beneficial books once again. Having a halaqa at home. If you have roommates or family members, you can have a halaqa, weekly halaqa at home, where you can just read a book together. You don't have to be a scholar. You're just reading a book and reflecting with your family, as to what the scholar is saying. And tafsir of the Quran, for example, is a good idea. Get a good tafsir. What are some of the good tafasir that we can benefit from in our times? Any favorites here? Somebody has a favorite tafsir? How long is it?
It's like a short, it's a very basic tafsir.
Okay.
It's not like long like
Ibn Kathir is very long. Yeah.
This is like very short.
Okay.
Explain the verse by verse.
What is the name again?
It's by Tafsir Sayyidan.
Sayyidan. Okay. What else? Any other tafasir? One of the ones I recommend is, that was the first tafsir I read as a teenager, and it really inspired me in many ways, is Abul Ala Maududi. Abul Ala Maududi's tafsir is a very good tafsir in the sense that it is readable. A lot of tafasir are not readable. They're very technical. They give you names and chains and they go into technical issues. This one reads like a book, like a story. So it's like very readable, approachable. He goes through history of the ayat. He goes through ahadith. He goes through a lot of Banu Israel and their history in order to teach us what Allah is talking about when Allah talks about them. So he's a good scholar when it comes to tafsir. Of course, he has some controversial areas where you can agree or disagree with him, but I'm talking about the historical perspective and background in tafsir. Another tafsir which is good is called the thematic tafsir. Okay, it's called a thematic tafsir. It's written by a group of scholars. It's not one scholar. So what they do is instead of going verse by verse, they pick a theme and then they bring the ayat from the Quran to teach you that theme. Okay, so that's another good one. So there are many available in our times in English and in other languages. So I would highly recommend to pick up a good tafsir, basic level tafsir, and go over it at home with your family. At least read it yourself.
Also books like called which is the reading of the relations, but I think those
Yeah, those I would recommend in the intermediate and advanced level. So Asbabun Nuzul is now getting into a more like specific topic. So first level would be to go through the whole Quran from a very basic understanding, without getting. That's why I'm saying get a tafsir which is not too detailed, like Ibn Kathir, because you can learn so much in the Quran. There is the whole sciences of the Quran. There is the language of the Quran. There is Ijazul Quran, the miracles of the Quran. There is, Asbabun Nuzul. There is the, the verses which are abrogated, Nasikh and Mansukh verses, right? There is general Am and Khas verses. There's so many areas that you can get into in the Quran. But first level would be basic level understanding of things. So yes, I would recommend Asbabun Nuzul as a second or medium level seeking of knowledge. Yes, yes. Going a little bit beyond the translation. So if you have not even read a translation, then read a translation first, right? And then maybe you can go to a comment. What they call it is commentary. In English, they say these are commentaries on the Quran. So
translation, it's a white color.
Okay.
It is written by one of the scholars from Texas, somewhere from Texas.
Okay.
We used to have a lot of that in the masjid, but it disappeared over time.
Really? Do you remember the name?
Huh?
Do you remember the name?
He came over here.
Okay.
Like maybe, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago.
Okay.
He came over here. He's from, I don't know, whether he's from Pakistan, but he lived in Texas.
Are you talking about Imtiaz Ahmad? There is a scholar known as Imtiaz Ahmad, and he has a tafsir and he also has other books.
Yeah, the one thing that I like about that version is each surah, he would narrate how that surah was revealed and the stories behind that.
He'll go into details.
And then the translation is
Yes.
a little bit of translation plus certain ayahs to explain a little bit more in the footnotes.
I'm sure there are many good ones, but you need to find at least one and start studying it.
Yes, there's alam or something.
Maybe, yeah. So let me know if you find it. You can share it with us, inshallah. The seekers of knowledge and their mashayikh, their teachers and scholars also used to be immensely well-mannered, have plenty of mutual respect along with self-esteem, and were upon the way of the early generations of Islam. For this reason, they reached their aims and many of them became recognized scholars, and all praise is due to Allah alone, the Lord of the world. So this is an area which I see a lot of problems today. Like in YouTube, if you go to YouTube, you'll find so-called muftis and scholars, and they're attacking each other. They're just kind of going against each other and trying to prove that this scholar is no good and I am better than him, right? So this kind of rivalry I see between a lot of groups these days and factions, and that is not healthy. That's not Islam. That's not what we're interested in. What we're interested in is scholars who are well-mannered. They know how to differ with each other. You could have differences of opinion. We were talking about the madhabs, on Friday night, And one of the things I was mentioning was how these different scholars used to learn from each other. Even they differed from each other, they used to respect each other. So if you as a student of knowledge or a scholar cannot respect other scholars and other students of knowledge and cannot respect the differences of opinion between you and them, then you don't have the manners of being a student of knowledge. This is part of the manners, is to learn that there are others with other opinions. As long as it's not Quran and Sunnah mentioned directly, it's just an opinion, my opinion versus your opinion, it's okay. You can have one opinion, I can have another opinion. For example, a case, the meat that we eat in the West. It's an area of difference of opinion between scholars. Some scholars say you can only eat dhabiha. Okay? The rest is all not allowed. It's haram. Other scholars say no, as long as it is from the halal animals, you say Bismillah, this is the land of the Jews and the Christians, and Allah has allowed us to eat from them. So they say they allowed the eating of that meat. So there is a difference of opinion. It doesn't mean now we need to start fighting over it in the masjid. Or we start accusing each other, oh haram, you're eating haram meat because you're eating this and because you have a different opinion. No, you inform the other party of your opinion. You can even debate in a good way. You can give evidences from both sides. But at the end of the day, you respect. Because there is a genuine scholarly difference of opinion. And there are many issues like this where there is a genuine scholarly difference of opinion. We need to respect those. Okay? We should give our opinion. We should follow the opinion we feel is the correct opinion. But at the same time, we don't need to go down to the level of name calling or, cussing, cursing, trying to prove that this scholar is not even a scholar, that there is no good in this scholar, right? Yes?
Even the Sahaba used to have different opinion.
Even the Sahaba.
One time where the Prophet gave an order to the Sahaba, and then one group of the Sahaba followed this order like right away. I think it was
the Salah.
Yeah, Salah.
Yeah.
He told them to pray, and then
a
group prayed, and then the other group waited.
Did not pray. Yeah.
So, and when the Prophet came back, they told him about the situation. He was like, both of you right.
Yes.
Those who prayed, they prayed correctly, and those who didn't.
Yeah, the Prophet didn't reprimand any group. He didn't criticize any of the groups, right? So two groups, the Prophet had told them, don't pray your Asr prayer until you reach the camp. Okay, because they were fighting the Jewish people at that time too. So they had to reach the fortresses of the Jews. He said, don't pray your Asr prayer until you reach that camp. So now on the way the Sahaba came, Asr prayer was going. It was almost time for Maghrib. So now some of the Sahaba said, we need to pray because we're going to lose our Asr prayer. Others said, no, we can't pray. Remember the Prophet said, don't pray your Asr until you reach there. So one group prayed, the other didn't pray. And then they both came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet did not reprimand either group. Okay? Even though he himself prayed Asr. So he actually legitimized one group. The group that was right was the one who prayed Asr. He did not mean by that, forget your Asr prayer. What he meant was, hurry up. Meaning, get there before Asr. But doesn't mean if you don't get there before Asr, you don't pray your Asr. You still have to pray your Asr prayer. He himself prayed his Asr prayer on the way. But the point was, he did not criticize either group. Why? Because one group took it literally, his words literally, we should not pray until we reach there. That's a literal interpretation. The other group said, no, the Prophet meant. They took the spirit behind the law. Okay? And they followed it like that. So that's what we see today also. There are groups which will take literally everything in the Quran and Sunnah. And then there's other groups who will take the spirit behind the law and try to make rulings based on. A good example of that is the isbal. We were talking about it earlier, right? The pants. Should they be above your ankle or below the ankle? Now, if you take the ahadith literally, the Prophet's ahadith, then we are not allowed to have anything below our ankle, because the Prophet warned of hellfire for the ankles, for those people who have their pants below the ankle. But if you try to go spirit behind the law, what was the spirit? Is because in the Prophet's time, there were people who arrogantly used to drag their lower garments with pride. Okay, so the Prophet forbade. So some people say, the scholars will say the Prophet forbade it because of that reason. But now in our times, when our pants are longer and they go below the ankle, are we doing it out of arrogance? Or is it just the custom now? And say it's the custom now. So you see, you'll find both groups there. One group will say, no, it's haram. You cannot do it. The other group will say, it's okay. Why? Because we're not being arrogant. So the point is, these are genuine. So if a brother comes next to you, and you're somebody who believes that the pants should be higher than the ankle, and his pants are lower. What are you going to do? You're going to walk away from him? I don't want to pray with this guy, because he's disobeying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No. Similarly, the other way around. You're somebody who believes it's okay to have pants down, and a brother comes and he has his pants like high up. You're like, feeling uncomfortable. Oh, this is one of those guys, one of those guys. You have your own understanding of what those guys are. You have no respect for these people. This is also wrong. No. There is a difference of opinion. We respect both opinions. Whichever opinion you follow, you still respect the other side. Any questions on this? Okay, we're going to end soon, inshallah. So it is not time to call for the return to the traditional methods of seeking knowledge by studying and memorizing concise, reliable books, and not just relying upon understanding alone or upon studying pre-prepared pamphlets. It is these two things that cause the seekers of knowledge to become lost and neither memorize nor understand the knowledge. So basically, it is time that we return to some of those traditional methods. Of course, we can use technology. Note taking doesn't have to be with a pen and a paper anymore. Note taking can be on a tablet. Note taking can be on a monitor, you speaking and it's taking notes. Whatever way that is the technology that you have, but still note taking is important. The computer is not the one supposed to become a scholar. You are the one supposed to become a student of knowledge. So if the computer is recording it, it still needs to come to you. Still, you're the human being who's trying to learn that. The other thing is to understand. Understanding will require effort. Once again, no computer is going to get into your brain and make you understand things, right? You have to work on it your own self by contemplating, by sitting with people of knowledge, by asking good questions. That's another thing. Do we ask good questions? Do we ask questions to learn? A lot of times we either stay quiet, we don't ask any questions, or when we ask questions, they have nothing to do with the topic, right? I told you about that brother in Morgantown who started asking questions about the Qibla. So we had a sheikh in Morgantown, West Virginia. He gave a whole talk about Salah, fiqh of Salah. So we're all there. And this brother, he raises his hand and he said, Sheikh, I have a question. What if I am in the middle of a jungle and I don't know the Qibla? So what should I do? So the sheikh smiled. He said, brother, what are your chances of ever being lost in the middle of a jungle? He said, okay, low chance. It can happen. So he gave him an answer. You look at the sun, you look at the light, whatever. He gave him an answer. Then after a few minutes, Sheikh, I have another question. What if I am in the middle of the sea and I get lost in the night? How will I know where the Qibla is? The Sheikh said, are you a sailor, brother? Do you work for the Navy? Do you ever go in a submarine? He said, no, I just want to know. Hypothetical. He's just making up questions which have no relevance to him or the lives of the people that are there. So the Sheikh, once again, he said, you look at the stars, this and that. He gave him some answer. After a while, he's like, Sheikh, I have another question. Like, what if I am on Mars and I have to pray Salah? Which direction should I face? Where is the Qibla? And the Sheikh, at that point, he could not take it anymore. He became so mad. He's like, brother, are you an astronaut? When was the last time you went in space? He's like, no, I never went to this. He's just making up. So this is another kind of audience or another kind of student who just wants to, what if? Like kids, little kids, you find they ask a lot of what if questions. What if this happens? What if that happens, right? So in Islam, we don't get into what if scenarios unnecessarily. Like one time a man came to Umar ibn Khattab and he said, what should we do if this happens? Umar ibn Khattab said, did it happen? He said, no, what if it happens? Hypothetical. Umar said, then don't ask about it. When it happens, come to me, I will gather the people of Badr and we'll discuss it. Meaning, don't just get into hypothetical scenarios and fiqh. And that destroyed many Muslims in the Middle Ages. Okay, when these fiqh, these madhabs, they were born and they became dominant. That's what ended up happening in the courts of the king and the courts of the governor. So the governor, just for entertainment, he would bring a Hanafi scholar and a Shafi'i scholar and give them a topic. Okay, now you guys debate with each other. Hypothetical. This topic has no value for. And then he would give gift to the winner. He would take his gold or whatever, throw it at the winner, and then the winning side goes home with cheering for Hanafis or Shafi'is, and the losing side, like they're booing the losing side. And so it became like a personal competition. Instead of positive fiqh, the scholars got involved in this hypothetical fiqh. What if this happens and that happens and so on? Yes, Muhammad, you had a question? Good? All right. Okay. It was narrated that Al-Hafiz Uthman ibn Khurrad, who died in 282, rahimahullah, he said, the person associated to hadith is in need of 5 qualities. And if one of them is lost, then it is considered as a deficiency. He is in need of a good mind. He is in need of taqwa. He is in need of precision. He is in need of proficiency in the field, as well as being well known for his trustworthiness. Imam al-Dhahabi, he commented, trustworthiness is a portion of the deen, and precision is included in proficiency. So what a hafiz really needs, by hafiz he means a scholar of hadith. Okay? Do you know how many hadiths you have to memorize in order to be called a hafiz in that field? Hafiz of the Quran we know. Hafiz of hadith, in the hadith. Who is called a hafiz? You have to memorize minimum 100,000 hadith. 100,000 hadith you memorize, then you reach the level of hafiz of a hadith. And there are higher levels than that. Imam al-Bukhari, it is said, he knew more than 400,000 hadith. That's how much he had memorized from the hadith. And he used to say, I know those 400,000 hadith, just like you guys know Qul Huwallahu Ahad. That's how good he memorized, and Allah had blessed him with special memory. So, it was a blessed time. Allah blessed this ummah with great scholars. So he said, and what a hafiz needs is to be fearful of Allah, intelligent, grammatical, a linguist, a righteous, modest person, followers of the early generations, and it is sufficient enough for him to write 200 volumes and to gather 500 reliable compilations or books, and not to become fatigued by seeking knowledge till death, with sincerity and humility, otherwise let him not trouble himself. So these are very high standards the early scholars had for seekers of knowledge. If you are a true scholar and you want to become a scholar or you want to become a seeker of knowledge, then you should never be fed up or bored with seeking more knowledge. Even if you have 200 books that you have memorized, you should still be looking for more books to memorize. You should still be looking for more knowledge to acquire. And trustworthiness is part of the scholar's or the seeker of knowledge's character. Trustworthiness means that sometimes people will come and share information with you as a scholar, as a seeker of knowledge. Okay, because they want your advice. So you have to keep that as a secret. If you're going to be sharing personal information with other people, then you're not fit to be a scholar, you're not fit to be a student of knowledge. Okay, this is what we call this today confidentiality. Right? When you go to the doctor has to be confidential. When you go to a counselor, they cannot release your information to other people. In Islam, we've had confidentiality as part of the process of scholarship from very beginning. So are you a trustworthy person? Can I share my secrets with you and you'll keep them to yourself? Or are you going to spread them to other people and, backbite on me and gossip about me behind my back? Okay, so any questions on today's session? Today we looked at a couple of qualities for a seeker of knowledge: firmness, consistency, okay? But we also looked at the methodology of what should be the method of the seeker of knowledge, and what is the basic idea that you should start from the beginning, start from the basics. You should really understand the basics by maybe memorizing, even if you have to, memorizing certain basic facts in that area before you go to higher level. That you take step-by-step approach. Okay? Don't jump to higher level topics before you have mastered the basics of the topic. That the Quran needs to be read in small portions with reflection. That is the correct way of reading the Quran and reciting it and memorizing it with meaning, so that you could contemplate on its verses. Any questions at the end before we stop and go to the quiz?
I found that myself,
Yes.
the white color available in Amazon.
What is the name?
It's the title Al-Quran by Muhammad Faruqi Azam Malik.
Okay, that's different. I don't know about it.
From the Institute of Islamic Knowledge Houston.
Okay, can you share it maybe in the group with us, weekly halaqas or something, so that people can benefit from that? All right, ready for the quiz? Let's see who was paying attention and who was not. All right, so maybe take these ones today.
I take the pen. Hey, what happened?
It's okay, share. Oh, careful with the camera, careful with the camera. Okay, so the question for tonight is complete the quote. Whoever does not perfect the blank is prevented from reaching their aim. Whoever does not perfect the blank will be prevented from reaching the aim. So what do you have to perfect in order to reach your aim in seeking knowledge? What do you have to perfect in order to reach your goal? Whoever does not perfect the blank is prevented from reaching their goal. Write your name on one side and the answer on one side. Paper? There's more here. I have. Here. Extra? Okay, you can give it to one of the kids. They can bring it.
What's the question again?
Question is fill in the blanks. Whoever does not perfect the blank is prevented from reaching their goal. What do you have to perfect to reach your goal? Thank you.
I don't think we got it.
See, that's another area where note taking helps. You can win the quiz if you're taking notes.
Maybe not win the quiz, win the money.
Money?
The gift card.
Yeah,
Put the thing in.
exactly. Thank you, brother.
Are you gonna be famous?
You are famous already.
That's why we have it recorded.
Okay, everyone's done? Anyone left who wants to participate? Done. Everyone's done? Okay. So, oh, you're still? Okay. But this one has nothing on it. This one also has nothing on it. All right. Let's see the winners. 1 and 2.
I forgot to write my name on mine. I can tell you.
Okay, if it's blank, then I'll come to you. Well, first winner is a blank person who wrote nothing. So I'm going to pick one more.
He was the one who gave a black
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so what is the correct answer? Whoever does not perfect the basics or the foundation? The basics or the foundation. So you have to perfect your basics first and the foundation before you move on. So the winners are Brother Abu Bakr, congratulations to you, and Sister Aisha Gul. So congratulations to you. Okay, so that's all for tonight. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. So please give me your email address, Sister Aisha.